Alright, as I'm sure most of you absolute gamers are aware of by now, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 are here, and I'm lucky enough to have an Xbox Series X. So, the other day I cleared up some of the common misconceptions and questions about playing Battlefield 1 on a next-gen console, what it changes, who you can play with and all that jazz, and today we take on the current iteration of the franchise, Battlefield 5, covering these same topics and more due to the different expectations of being the flagship game for the franchise at this point. This video is brought to you by the Board of Awesome from the epic people who support the channel on Patreon. Also, many of you watching probably don't even realize you aren't subscribed, as over 80% of my viewership at the minute comes from non-subscribers. So consider hitting that subscribe button if you don't want to miss out, and push the channel closer to our current 60k subs goal from the 57k we currently sit at. Thank you very much. So to get Battlefield 5 on your next generation console, you can do everything you could have done on the previous gen console within reason. So you can download it from the store, you can buy a physical copy, etc. It is totally backwards compatible. It is also available for no extra cost if you're subscribed to EA Play or the Game Pass, the Game Pass being available on Xbox and PC, and that's likely the best value for money option. Additionally, you could do what I did. I stored all of my games from my previous console on an external drive, and then I simply plugged that into my Xbox Series X. But it must be a compatible drive, and PS5 owners, you'd need to research this to see if it's possible for you. Now, if you play BF5 on your next gen console, if you have one or when you have one, you'll be playing with and against players on the same gen console and the one before it. So Xbox Series X players will play against people on the Series X, Series S, and Xbox One. PS5 players will play against those on PS5 and PS4. So as I said for Battlefield 1 on the previous video, you won't be super short of people to play with. In fact, you'll likely have even less problems with it than say even on BF1. The player base on BF5 is still reasonably healthy in terms of being able to just get on and find a game, especially on the larger modes, and especially if you're playing one of the high usage regions such as the US, UK, or around Germany, etc. But beware that you may run into some more issues in some less highly played regions, or indeed regions that had servers removed from BF5. Side note, for those that maybe haven't played BF5 at all or left a long time ago, some modes you might expect to be able to play, you can't do. For example, Frontlines, my very favourite mode, was removed as a permanent mode a long time ago, along with some others. So yeah, tread lightly, don't get your hopes up too high where modes are concerned, and just see what's available when you get on. Now the performance, well, on my Xbox Series X it's pretty rock solid, and seems to mirror that which I experienced on BF1 on this generation of console. It looks great, we seem to believe it can utilize 4K, I've also seen that it's been tested and it runs at up to 60 FPS currently, and really the difference between playing on this gen console and the previous one is the consistency. It copes far better with having a lot going on. The frame rate drops nowhere near as much when there's loads of explosions or people on screen, etc. There are few to no stuttering issues, everything looks crisp. It's just overall a better and more consistent experience on this generation of console due to the superior hardware. And I do recommend it personally. It's for sure made a difference for me on both BF1 and BF5. I find picking enemies out easier, my eyes are less strained, and it looks great. So if you come to BF5 now, what content can you expect? For this, I had to remove myself from my own long-term experience of the game. Those who have been with the game from way back have seen all of the trials and tribulations, all the broken promises and letdowns. It's not been good for most players that have been here for a long time. But for a fresh player, there are now genuinely quite a lot of maps and guns, limited modes to choose from for sure, as alluded to earlier, but other than that, there's a lot for you to experience. I'm not a fan of some of the maps, common feeling among the player base, but at least it is somewhat varied. Some big open maps, some smaller and more cluttered ones, etc. You've got assault rifles, SMGs, MMGs, shotguns, bolt actions, and so on and so on. On this front, I think many will be happy coming to the game fresh right now. I can't guarantee you will like how the game is formed, but content-wise, there's probably enough for you to get your teeth into for quite a while. Now, this doesn't mean all of the guns are well balanced and whatever, but I won't drag the mood down too much by diving into all of that. Just find what you like or what's effective for you and run with it, experiment for fun, just have a good time. Oh, and of course, it's not all infantry play. It can be if you like, such as how I play, but if you enjoy vehicles or just mixing things up a bit, you can find tanks, planes, trucks, and such like. On the tanks and planes, they're customizable, so it's a varied experience. Now, for anyone that's not been away for too long but has left the game, you may be wondering what the latest update was about, considering DICE said there wouldn't be any more content. So to be clear, there is no fresh content and there won't be any at any point. point. No new maps, guns, modes, or whatever, anything that's playable. This update was for quality of life improvements and to add more to custom games, private games, or whatever you want to call them. So you've got more control over health, the weapons you can and can't use, stuff like that. There's also a couple of new elite skins and a few other tweaks, but no actual content as such, just so it's made very clear. And so with all of that in mind, is it worth it? Is it worth your time? Well, only you can really decide that. But for me, it does make a significant enough difference playing on the Series X, and equally therefore the PS5, over the previous generation consoles. For me, I would say it is worth the switch, and for some of you out there, it will therefore be worth your time. Certainly more so starting from fresh, but maybe for some of you to return, just with the right outlook for it, and if you come on and you just don't have the right frame of mind or whatever, then so be it. BF5 is not or maybe never will be for you, and I could completely understand that. Whatever makes you happy. But overall, on these new gen consoles, it's clearer, it runs better, it may or may not get further improvements in the future for this generation. That's up to DICE whether they want to improve the frame rate and etc. And overall then, that's how I feel, and that's what's currently possible for BF5 on Series X and PS5. Let me know what you think, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hitting like and subscribe would be genuinely fantastic, thank you very much. And I'll play out some more Series X gameplay here for you to watch without distraction if you so wish, so you can weigh it up further. All the links to my social media, including Discord, Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, all of that can be found in the description and a pinned comment. And with that all said, I am GetGoodGuy, and I will see you next time. Laters.
Erste Hilfe, greif zu! Hier! Erste Hilfe!
Alert, objective taser is being lost. We have now taken objective Anton.
Ja, wir haben das Ziel. Keine Sorge, ich helfe dir. Ruhig atmen. Ich flieg dich zusammen. Seht ihr das? Verdammt gefährlich!
Be aware that we are losing objective taser. We are losing objective taser.
Wir müssen das Ziel da erobern. Ladungen sind scharf. Fordern Artilleriebeschuss auf diese Koordinaten an!
But it for sure appears more crisp and clear for me on my Series X, with seemingly more consistent frame rates than when it was on my Xbox One or Xbox One X. On the previous generation, the game would drop its resolution and frame rate if things got too busy on screen,